Oh, wow. So how's everybody doing? Are we recording? We're started. We're ready to go.
Recording, yes.
All right. Well, I thought we could do a little bit of a controversial topic on this controversial topics forum. Um, it would be kind of good. I don't know if you can reach out to get a completely different view than I'm sure what's going to be heard here. Although it could be somebody here could be similar. But man, if what's his name? The Jewish rabbi guy, Paddock. Guys know who I'm talking about? Scott? Is
Oh
it
yeah,
Scott? Does anybody have a way to reach out to him or?
Jackson might. I don't.
Oh, well,
Sure, I'll tell him to come on. Whether he'll be there or not, I don't know.
sure.
But
Okay. It would just be good because, it would be obviously he would be representing the traditional view
Oh,
of
yeah.
what we're wanting to talk about here. And I know we have some alternative views that we're going to show. So basically the topic of discussion today is going to be about the land of Israel, and are the Jews that are currently in the land of Israel, are they the fulfillment of prophecy? And are they the Jews that are supposed to be there from the Bible's perspective, or not, or somewhere in between? So no controversy at all about that one. But yeah, so we wanted to talk about that a little bit. And what I want to do is kind of put it into three categories, and then maybe have just a brief overview of the different categories, and then some deeper, if anybody has any, maybe you're partial one category, partial another, or something like that. But at least just to give us sort of a defining idea of what we're talking about here, because there are different thoughts. A lot of people don't know. Oh, whoa. A lot of people don't know that, that before 1948, there was a huge movement in Protestant charismatic circles saying that the people were going to, come back. And then once in 1948 it happened, then everybody kind of said, oh, that's what it was. And that was the end of it, so to speak. So, but not everybody agrees with that. So there's kind of three views on it right now. And number one is that the Jewish people who are in the land of Israel right now, because of the happenings, starting all the way with Balfour and his declaration, leading up to 1948, and them getting into the land, that is the fulfillment of prophecy. It's completely fulfilled. And while there's some stuff that needs to be worked out, the prophecy's been fulfilled, and Yah's people are back in the land. The second idea, the second category, is that the Jews that are in the land, and that is at least a partial fulfillment of prophecy. But there's a lot of things that need to take place for it to be a complete fulfillment. And those things that need to take place could be anywhere from the Jews need to follow Torah and accept the Messiah, and that's it. Once they do that, it's fulfilled. There's other people that believe, no, everything's not fulfilled in the modern day Jews. And there's what would be called a two-house movement, where there's the 10 tribes are not part of that. Whereas the most Messianic Jews believe that the 10 tribes are already a part of that, and they've been assimilated in. And then the last kind of category would be that absolutely not. None of this is the fulfillment of prophecy. There is blinders on people, and the powers that be in the world, with their evil intentions and their evil ways, forced these people to be put in there. They are imposters. They have seedy motives, and they are not the fulfillment, and they will be removed. And then Yah's chosen people will be put in there, and then that will be the fulfillment of the prophecy. So I don't know if all of you knew that there was this going on. I'm sure you knew at least some of it, but that's kind of the three arenas. And then you could be in one of those groups, or you could be kind of a mishmash or in between, or maybe there's something you believe that none of us have any idea on. And I know we've got different views here. So before we start discussing some of these views more deeply, because there's certain people that have more can have more of an in-depth idea. I know I'm going to ask Jeremy to talk about one of them at least. Does anybody understand what's going on? Does anybody have any questions, or is this new to anybody, or where is everybody at with all this? Man, you guys are a lively bunch today.
I think there might be a little truth in all of that. I don't know. Can't pick one.
Right. Well, I don't know if there could be a little truth in all of that, but there could be a little truth in most of it. I think that I don't think there could be a truth in the extreme of the first one versus the extreme of the second one. I think those are antithetical.
Oh yeah.
But in between there, there could be a lot of truth in that. Okay. Anybody else? Who's on the LG Stylo 4 Plus, by the way? Nobody. I'm getting ghosted by an LG phone. My life has crashed. All right. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts?
And he's asking on the LG4. You need to speak up. How do you do it?
Yeah, you're right. We can hear you. Who is this?
Oh, this is Janie and Ann.
Oh, Janie and Ann. Okay, cool. You can. That's fine. Do you guys have any questions or thoughts on all of this? No? Okay. Anybody else? Kenneth, Sherry, Norman? All right. Okay. So, go ahead, Norman. You got nothing? You're just listening? All right. If we have a calendar comment, I'm sure you'll pipe in. All right. So let's start with kind of the traditional. And I would say, and somebody can, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say that this is probably, when the Hebrew roots started, which a lot of people here don't necessarily define themselves as, but certainly we've had contact with people who are Hebrew roots. It used to be known as Jewish roots. And then in the Jewish roots, it kind of moved to Hebrew roots, but still kept a lot of the Jewish roots character. But so there were some things that they kind of dropped. But there was this idea that, hey, we all need to be Jewish. Quote unquote, Jesus was Jewish, and so we want to be Jewish. And so then you have people that are, trying to dress Jewish and trying to learn the things from the Jews and different things like this. Which, by the way, the Bible does say that the tribe of Yehuda will teach the Elohim-fearing Goy certain things. So it does say that. Now, we need to, define words here, and I would definitely put a difference between the tribe of Yehuda and the modern day Jew proper, although someone could be a part of both groups. But it does say that. So kind of the Hebrew roots, Jewish roots took that scripture to kind of start doing everything Jewish, including believing that they were the complete fulfillment of the prophecy. And we need to start to kind of get in line with them, doing different things like that. That's the modern prevailing thought. You have the different promotional tours where you can do Aliyah back to the land. The Jewish Messianic Jew comes in, or maybe not even Messianic, but the religious Jew comes in and talks about the Goy helping out the land of Israel, and you can take the trip there, and you can buy all the clothes and the shofar and the this and the that, and do the different things. And I'm sure some of you have shofars, and some of you have some of those things. Tzitzit is very popular. All of this stuff. So that would be kind of the group number one. Is anybody here in group number one? Would you identify as you are in that group?
Could you say that again, only a little less wordy?
I couldn't hardly hear you, but I think you said, could you say that again with a little less ambiguity? Is that what you said?
Yes, a little less wordy. A little
Okay.
fewer no's and
Ums and nos. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to put that together without having that pre-worded. The Jewish roots / Hebrew roots idea traditionally has been that the Jewish people are the fulfillment of the prophecy to get Yah's people back in the land. They are one house and not two house, meaning they don't believe that there's going to be, although Hebrew roots would definitely be two house, but from the Jewish perspective, it would be that they're one house, that there's only the Jewish people are the fulfillment of the prophecy. Hebrew roots would attach to that and say, we agree with everything except for we're the second house, and we believe we're coming back as well. And everybody does everything in this mindset to promote the Jewish people, the Jewish culture, stemming from the Abrahamic Genesis 12 and Genesis 15. Anyone that blesses you will be blessed. Anyone that curses you will be cursed. And so that they feel like it's their duty to do so, regardless of how the Jews who are living in the land are living according to Torah and or Yeshua. Was that succinct enough? Does everybody agree kind of with that statement? Do you have any qualms with that, Jeremy? Does that sound like a legitimate position that group one is in?
If I think I heard it all, yeah. I was between reading and listening, so.
Multitasking.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Is anybody in that group?
not I. No.
Okay.
Close.
Okay, well, let's go to the opposite extreme here, the opposite group. And this group would be, well, maybe Jeremy, if you could define the group that doesn't feel like that the Jewish people in the Jewish state of Israel are the fulfillment of prophecy.
I don't know if I could, cover it as well as, Dr. Brown assesses his view, but, I would identify with the position that the current state of Israel isn't a fulfillment of prophecy. I might leave it at that, because there's a lot of nuance to the rest of it, but and a lot of stuff that can get really hairy and emotional. So I don't know that it is productive to get into the details, but essentially, I would probably just leave it at the current Jewish state of Israel is not a fulfillment of prophecy, and unless there's some specific detail you want me to address there, I would leave it at that.
Yeah, I would just say in general, what are some of the cues that a person who takes that view, what are they looking at? What are some of the clues that makes them even question it? Because I think some people go, well, why would it even be questioned?
I take that view.
You take the third view?
Well, I take the view that I believe that this could well be a prophetic fulfillment in 1948 and in 67, yes. Although I do know that most of the people that call themselves Jews today they don't come from Jewish bloodline. Nevertheless, we still have this idea of a mixed multitude that comes in. But I would think it would be more of Israel, because all Jews are Israel, after all, but not all Israel are Jews. So, why the particular time this came to, the liberation of Israel coming approximately 2 prophetic days after they're shut down. That's got to have some significance there as well. I've always thought so. But I don't see the attitude of Jews in general, this attitude of superiority, or the attitude is there are no Israel but Jews today. I don't know by what they can possibly judge that, especially rabbinical Jews, because that's all there are, just about. I think they take this opinion of Pharisaical leaders because they were the Judaism that survived the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. That's one of the reasons I thought this would be a good topic. Help make up minds on this whole thing.
Okay, so Jeremy taking some of his issues, because he's saying, hey, I think there's some real possibility that 1948 was the start of something, but what makes them think they're the complete fulfillment, or what, and some of them are pretty I don't know what word you used, arrogant or whatever it was. Is that some of the things that you look at as well, or you go a different route?
I come up from a very basic principle, and it might be too simplistic, but just to preface, what I'm saying here, I don't take a whole lot of eschatology very seriously. I've heard just about every view under the sun, and they've all seemed to be wrong or proven wrong by some other view. So I kind of shelve this topic, but kind of diving back into some of the things that I have read or heard or studied about this in the past, I would say that what I'm looking for is a fulfillment of Daniel 2 vision, where Babylon and that whole system is destroyed by an unhewn stone, meaning tools of men haven't touched it. This kingdom doesn't come from men manipulating the world scene, the world stage. So if there's anything that is more obvious, it's that the state of Israel currently today has been manhandled completely. It was completely invented by men and manipulated through war in order to create it. So that, some of the people that are involved in the creation of the state of Israel are people that are still manipulating, or their ancestors, or their descendants are manipulating the world scene still. So to me, that doesn't sound like a fulfillment of the Daniel 2 vision and the world power of Babylon per se being destroyed, and being destroyed by an unhewn stone from heaven, right? So that's the basic principle, and then that underpinning of the history of the creation of the Jewish state of Israel. And then, I would probably agree with at least the idea that a lot of the Jewish people don't come from Jewish or from Israelite genealogy. So, they've got everything under the sun as far as different ideas, right? One of those being that a lot of the European Jews are from the Khazar kingdom. That's one of those theories. I've heard that two different genealogists actually say that with the amount of time that has passed, everyone today would be, with the proliferation of genes in the melting pot and in all these different nations, of the proliferation of Levitical priestly genes would be in everyone today by this date, right, 2019. Furthermore, another genealogist said the same thing in a report that he did, where he said that he thought that everyone would be of Abraham at this point. So he went back even further in his calculations. And I do think that with the Daniel 2 thing, and I have another theory about the definition of the term, the fullness of the Gentiles. I think that ties right into the prophecies regarding the 12 tribes coming back. And I think folks who try to say that the 12 tribes are represented by Jews are reaching. I think that's a huge stretch. But anyway, I do believe in more of a 12 literal tribes. But at the same time, with that idea that the genes could be so spread out that you could literally be seed of Abraham at this point in time, and maybe everybody is got genes from every tribe of Israel. That may be it. I mean, we might be waiting for the last baby to be born that hasn't had Israelite blood in them, and that baby has yet to be born or something before we kick off this whole thing into the millennium or whatever you want to call it. So I guess that kind of wraps up the basics of what I would start to assume. I wouldn't say I'm dogmatic about it at all, though.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Anybody have any questions or comments?
I just think that Jeremy's explanation and my attempts give you an idea of that we really don't have a very solid understanding, except from the perspective of when we were younger in certain fundamentalist Protestant churches where they had this all down, where finally, we help the Jews because we've got to have Israel destroyed again in order for Messiah to come. See what I'm saying? We don't have a good handle on this.
Right. I posted something in the chat. It's a link to the Jewish Encyclopedia, and if you scroll down to the section that says forcibly converts the Edomites, because this is under the Yochanan Hyrcanus entry into Jewish Encyclopedia, it talks about this idea that while the Jews were angry with the Samaritans and not counting them as part of the community because they were intermarrying with foreigners, whether forced or not, it was also happening in Judah. And John Hyrcanus forcibly converted the Edomites, in a sort of karma sort of way, for lack of a better term. The Edomites are the ones that Herod came from, and then Herod ends up killing all of the Hasmoneans that could be in charge. So in a way, it was a little bit of poetic justice there that the people that he forcibly converts ultimately get rid of his family from being in charge. And then, of course, we know the story of Herod and all of that from biblical and other literature. So there's just one example that all these Edomites came in. And if you know any prophecies about Edomites, whether those are legitimate prophecies or not, it could be another discussion. Can an Edomite who accepts Yeshua be brought in? But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. So then they're brought in, and then they're assimilated. And then, so the term Jew is really the term for Judea, like Judean, in a sense. And so it stops being at this time, or even a little bit earlier, it stops being the tribe of Judah, or maybe it never was the tribe of Yehuda. But the term Jew doesn't necessarily mean the tribe of Judah. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make looking at Jews as the tribe of Judah. Can there be a modern day person that identifies as a Jew that is also part of the tribe of Judah? Absolutely. There's probably a great deal of them. But is everybody who does? No way, absolutely not. And so when you have that going on, and you have the non-adherence to Torah, the non-acceptance of the Messiah, then those are strikes against, this being the fulfilled prophecy. On the other hand, I take a step back before I go too far that way and go, look, everybody's trying to get rid of them. The Arabs are trying to get rid of them out of there. They want to destroy them. They're not completely benign in any fashion, but they are certainly not doing what the Palestinians are doing by putting their children in front of, in the middle of bomb making buildings so that the children can get blown up. You will know each tree by its fruit. So the fruit of Israel versus the fruit of the rest of the area is light and darkness, and it's not the same thing. Although I'm sure that there's some things going on behind the scenes that we might not know about that they're doing that aren't the greatest or are flat out wrong. But I do see a difference, and I do see this idea that why would the adversary be trying to get rid of them so bad if there wasn't some legitimacy into why they were there? And so that's something that pulls me back from going, the complete other direction. Yes, LG Stylo 4+.
Talk, maybe. Why do you think that Israel is so protected?
Why do I think that Israel is so protected? I think that Israel I think you're probably, trying to come at it from a spiritual angle. I mean, if I look at it in the natural, they've got a nuclear bomb. So right there, nobody's just going to go and do something crazy because they could blow them off the face of the map pretty quick. They have some of the best technology. They have the backing, or they had the backing up until about 6 years ago of the United States, and now they have the backing of the United States again. So there's a lot of natural factors. Could it be that absolutely that Yah is protecting them? Absolutely, it can be, and so that's something that that factors in. However, even in the prophecies from the people that would be in group one that think that they can do no wrong and they are the chosen ones and we are to support them no matter what they're doing, even those people see the prophecies that says 40% of the people in the land are going to get annihilated, it seems, in some of the prophecies, and then there's going to be an awakening towards what they would term as the Messiah. So even people that do feel like they should be 100% supported, the ones that have studied see that there's still going to be some calamity and animosity that's happening to them where protection is taken up. But yeah, that's a good point. There does seem to be a spiritual element about them being protected, and that's another thing that someone who takes that viewpoint would argue for sure.
Amen. So, Rich, what do you think about the fact that within Israel there are many, many Muslims and Arabs? So when you put the whole mix together and you look at it from the angle that really you go way back, they were brothers. So could you speak to that?
Well, I mean, Arabs are a conglomeration of different, of not just Ishmael, but also of Esau, and then even Esau marries one of Ishmael's descendants, and so there's a mishmash there between Ishmael and Esau, and a lot of people don't realize that as well. I had the interesting conversation with a person, and I've never met anybody like this before, and I was asking my wife their name. And we couldn't. It was a Middle Eastern name, and we couldn't remember it for the life of us. But there was a church that we were at that there was an Arab couple. They were Palestinian. They lived in Israel in the 1940s, and they were Christian of all things. And they got evicted out of their house and had to relocate to Lebanon because of the happenings in 1947 and 48. They were forcibly removed from their house. They're Arabs, they're Palestinian, they're Christians. They're forcibly removed to Lebanon. And it was one of the, I'll tell you what, out of anything that anybody's ever told me, it's the most respected opinion on the matter that I have, because they've got all of the elements there. They are Palestinian. They lived in the land. They were forcibly removed. They're Christians who believed in Jesus, and they believe the prophecies that the land is going to return to Israel at one day. So their perspective, which I have never shared with anybody, has always struck me as the most relevant. And I just thought of them because you brought up the Arabs that are living there. But, Yah's pretty clear. All the way is speaking back to Arabs and Israel and Jews living in the same land. Yah is pretty clear from the beginning, and the mixed multitude and the servants in the house, all the way into Revelation, to where anyone who wants to come in and will live according to these precepts, he is accepting of all people as long as they are going to live according to the principles of the kingdom.
Principles of what? The kingdom.
Of the kingdom.
Oh. Thank you.
What I've heard, and I don't agree or disagree either way, is that there were always a remnant in the land, that everybody didn't leave, and the land always had a remnant. And at some point, a lot of them had to convert to Islam to keep from paying outrageous taxes on the land or lose the land. And so a lot of the Muslims that are still in the land or close to it at some point were not, or have not always been Muslims, or their descendants have not always been Muslims.
Yeah,
and a lot of them do.
No, that's absolutely true. Matter of fact, I have a video that I haven't played yet, and it's Dr. Michael Brown interviewing a guy who's been studying all of this. Who is a Jew? Who should be in Israel? And he flat out says it. And I was looking for the location while some of you were talking, because it's like a 45-minute interview. And I was trying to find the exact location. I was supposed to spin it up before this started. But and
he posted a link with this information in it as well.
Oh, okay. On the Israel National News.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of this is all real history. I mean, Ben Gurion also supports that deal, and
that link doesn't go anywhere.
Oh,
it goes to a water cooler.
Are you some sort of web guy or what, Jeremy? What's going on here?
Taking it right out of the URL.
Yeah. Anyway, so the guy talks about the Ethiopian Jews. He talks about the South American Jews, and then he also talks about that very thing, where there were nomads living in the land that were Israeli, whether from which tribe he doesn't say, but then they converted to Islam so that they would be okay, so that they wouldn't be extra taxed and all of that. And then in 1947, and this is the part that just blows me away, that nobody knows about, in 1947, 48, when everybody was coming back, the Jews from Europe and the Jews from Russia and all of this, they applied for citizenship and they got rejected. And since they got rejected, they are the ones that are more aggressive towards the state of Israel than anyone else. So he says it in the interview. He says, anytime we hear of a Palestinian bombing or a shooting or a knifing or something like this, we almost automatically know it's going to come from this neighborhood or that neighborhood, because that's the group of people that were Israel that got rejected citizenship. And so now they fight the state of Israel as not legitimate. And when I heard that, and this is coming from an Orthodox Jew, that blew me away. I had no idea that was the case. And while Jeremy looks up this thing and talks about it in a minute, I'll try to find that exact location and see if we can't play it here.
Yeah, I'll just read some of this this article. It says one Arab says his father told him the secret of his family's Jewishness on his deathbed, while another one, on the backdrop of a photo of the family or the saintly Kabbalistic sage Rabbi something or other on his wall, says that their roots have been known in his family for generations. Wrapping what apparently used to be kosher Teflon on his arm, he says, "My father used to do this, and he taught us to do it whenever someone was sick or in trouble." It is generally accepted that Jews left the land of Israel after the failed Bar Kokhba revolt in 135 CE, yet many remained, and of these, many are still here after having been forced to convert to Islam. It turns out, quote, it turns out that a large part of the Arabs of the land of Israel are actually descendants of forced converts to Islam over the years, end quote, says Rabbi Dov Steen of the Nascent Sanhedrin Rabbinical Council. There are, quote, some studies that say that 85% of the Arabs in Israel are descended from Jews. Others say there are fewer, end quote. The claims are not new. Early Zionist leaders David Ben-Gurion and Yitzhak Ben Zvi wrote in a book 100 years ago, quote, "If we investigate the origins of the Fehalim, there is no doubt that much Jewish blood runs in their veins," end quote. The authors implied that these Jews loved the land so much that they were willing to give up their religion. The reference is probably to an edict in the year 1012 by Caliph el-Hakim, who ordered the non-Muslims to either convert or leave the land of Israel. It is estimated that 90% of the Jews chose the former, though many continued to practice Judaism in secret. The decree was revoked 32 years later, apparently too late for about 75% of the converts. And it goes on.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. And everybody, I would encourage you to read the whole thing or let your phone read it to you. Let the CIA read it to you. And I found this place on the video. So let me try to share my screen here and watch this portion of the video. The gentleman has just described a couple of different foreign places like Ethiopia where they're Jews, and he's saying, hey, they have to be Jews. They know all the customs. They know things that couldn't have been taught them. They were forcibly removed and they ended up in Ethiopia. And so his group is working on getting them citizenship and getting them back into the land. But then Dr. Brown asked this next question, and let's see if we can't pull it up here. Let me know if you guys can hear it and see it and everything. What in the world? It's making me put in some sort of password. What? Come on. Hopefully that'll work. It didn't work. Okay, let me do this. Jackson, are you there? Oh, all right. Am I sharing?
I'm here.
Hey, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's weird. Okay, let me go ahead and play this. Let me know if there's a problem with it.
No audio.
There's no audio?
No audio.
Come on, it says I'm sharing.
You got to click that check button before you share.
I did. I clicked it. Oh, let me see here. Let me try again. Okay. Let me get in the right spot again. Sorry about this, guys. I guess we'll have to edit this part out. Share screen. Share this. Computer sound. Share computer sound. Share. I don't know why it's asking me to enter my password to share. That's the weirdest thing. Is it sharing now?
No.
Says
And now it is.
if we double click it, there we see it.
Can you hear it?
No.
No.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it in, I'm going to put this link in the chat, and then Jackson, if you could just share it at starting at 11:15, 11 minutes and 15 seconds. That's weird. I'm on a new computer, so here we go. Okay, started at 11:15 if you could, Jackson.
Hello, my name is O, which is the Hebrew word for light. If you already knew this, you must have a special interest in the Hebrew Bible. But if you've never heard the word O before, let this be one.
The seat of Afghanistan is. Tonight, while discussing, we could talk about what some of those solutions would look like.
All right, and then if we
Yeah,
go
that's
right
good.
in the heart of the Middle East, the Palestinians. Do you think Palestinians, anti-Israel, hating the Jewish people, Hamas, and radical Palestinian Authority leader, whatever it is, that's the general perception. And yet there's DNA evidence and more that a certain percentage of Palestinians are actually Israelites.
This is going to get crazy also. Ben Zvi, the first president of Israel, one of the first presidents, also wrote extensively about the Palestinians, and we've identified, and I'm going conservative right now because there's people who have much higher numbers, but I'm not going to throw any radical numbers. They'll say about 25% of the there's no such thing as a Palestinian, let's say, let's call them, because they're all from different areas, Arabic-speaking people, tribes in Israel. This is how you refer to them. Let's say there's 25% of them self-identify as being from the Jews who went through forced conversions to Islam. Some of them we could trace from, let's say, 2,000 something years ago, when we see the scriptures saying they left the wine bearers in the land to take care of the hills and the mountains. Some of them come from communities as far as 100 years ago who were forced converted. Some of them have under their floorboards remnants from Spain from the 1400s who we know some of them came to Israel who went through forced conversions. Now, we're not speaking about individuals here. We're speaking about communities and actual villages of Palestinians who have this identity. And I want to tell you a crazy statistic. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you a story. I had ordered a couch to my house from IKEA in Israel, and I had the Arab workers come and deliver. And now every day Arabs and Jews interact peacefully in Israel. There's really no issues. It's a lot of it's hyped up. In certain areas it's hot, and we'll get to it. And they're in my house building the couch, and I say to them, I said, hey, I heard that there's a percentage of the Palestinians who come from, or the Arabic-speaking clans who come from the people of Israel. Is it true? He says to me, yes, I'm one of them. He was actually a Christian Arab, but he said, I'm one of them. I am really Jewish. And I said, okay. And my little son was in the room, and he heard me. He always hears me speaking about it. And he all of a sudden he saw that actually someone agreed to, and he was like, that was shocking. So they finished working, and I said, hey, would you guys like a round of shots? You work so hard. I'll give you each a shot of scotch, or I have, a good bottle. And they all said, yeah, sure, we'd love a shot. So I pour a round of shots, me and the Palestinian Arab-speaking workers, and we're about to take a shot. And this Arabic-speaking man makes a blessing, a Jewish blessing in Hebrew, Shehakol Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Shehakol niyeh b'dvaro, and he takes the shot. And so obviously he was raised in a family that they're hiding, and they know they have Jewish roots. This is very prevalent. But the crazy thing is, you'll see a lot of the terrorism in Israel comes specifically from the villages that we know were once Jewish. A good example of this would be there was a shooting in Sarona Mall in Tel Aviv. I think it was a year or two ago. A lot of people were shot down. And they said in the news, and the gunman was from Yatta, a village in the West Bank. Anyone could have gone to Yatta on Wikipedia and seen that it was once an exclusive Jewish community who is now exclusive. And it's all the same family. They marry within their clans. And so the reason, and you think about it, what could be leading these Palestinians who were once Jews to be the ones who are killing, the other Jews? So they say today they're not really accepted as Arabs, pure-blood Muslim Arabs. They're actually, I think the term would be Musta'arabim, like hidden Arabs. They're not like a converso would be called, or a derogatory term would be a Marano. So they have as a derogatory term for these Arabs. And I believe what I've read from the writings was in 1948, when Israel became a state, they had somewhat petitioned to be involved in the state, to play a role as also descendants of Judah. And the Israelis were having none of that. That was not a discussion for them at the time. So you have people with zero identity who have lived really bad lives and low quality of life, and they're snapping. They're going. So this is something that is going to have to be looked into.
You know, it reminds
Okay,
me of
go ahead.
Turkey trying to join the European Union and being excluded, and then it starts to go the way of radical Islam. It reacts in the other direction. It's almost a kind of a parallel thing. You get excluded by one group, and now you turn and get radicalized. All right.
Okay, so that's what I was referring to. The whole video, the link was there, if you guys want to watch it. That whole video is just a good video to listen to. But out of everything that I saw, that was the thing that was intriguing to me the most. You know, I find that a lot of people who do a lot of research on this subject, the people who do more research on this subject aren't as 100% one way or the other, unless they've just decided that everything that they research is propaganda and they've already made up their mind or whatever, you know, something like that. But and does anybody have any thoughts on that, what that gentleman just said? Because to me, I had no idea. I think I showed this 8 or 10 months ago in our home group, Jeremy, and it was just amazing to me. I had no clue that would have been, you know, that the more radical Palestinians are the ones that got rejected for citizenship into Israel proper. And now they're fighting because they know they're Israel. And if you're saying we're not Israel, then you're fake, you know, is kind of, I think they're now, obviously they shouldn't be blowing people up and knifing people, obviously, but it's just an interesting thing. Has anybody heard that before?
About the rounds of shots?
Yeah, about the rounds of shots. The Dr. Brown was a little uncomfortable there.
No, never heard of such a thing, except that, you know, the tribes in the first place migrated to the east, and then they went north, then they went west, and then they came back around. One of the things that really disturbs our understanding of migration is Islam, because of the nature of Islamic evangelism and resettling. You know, in those days, in the earlier days, we didn't have Arabs in Egypt, for instance, or Arabs in Libya, or Arabs in Palestine. That was just a small group in Arabia, and these people got on such a hunger for loot that they joined up with Muhammad, because he said, you can take all the loot that you want from these people. And they just went clear around the world till they got up as far north as and west as Vienna and Spain. So there's a complete displacement of people at that time. It's hard to tell who anyone is, except you would think that a family tradition. Rico Cortez talks about a family tradition that led to his identity as a Zadokite Jewish priest in his background. And when he got the family tradition was that the neighborhood got together in October for a neighborhood get together out in the street for 7 days. And that led him to learn about tabernacles. And then that took him to genealogy of his blood, and here what he finds is that J gene in there. So we got something like the same thing going on here, a family tradition that comes to the fore. That's all.
Rich.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel that the whole scenario is so complex that what we've been taught, and when you take a tour, for instance, in Israel, you just get, you know, they're doing it for money. So they're gonna basically say what people are wanting to hear, and they're showing them what they want to see. But you really aren't getting the truth. We've been to Israel several times, but we've always gone on business, and it's a totally different atmosphere from we've never gone as a tour. We've never entered a tour group. We've never participated in a tour. We do our own tours. We rent a car and we just go where we want to go. So if you truly intersect yourself with history, you get a totally different picture. And I put in the chat, there's a great book. It's called The Lemon Tree, and it gives a historical account of a Jew and an Arab and what happened when they were displaced. And it's a true story, and the people are still alive. And it's a very good book. It's called The Lemon Tree. I think Todon or I can't remember exactly the author. I'd have to go get it, but that's a good read.
Okay. Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that anything, it's the same with, a political party, a Democrat or Republican in America. They're just trying to get your vote and get your support. There's not, they're putting out metrics and they're putting out polls and they're doing this and, the people who voted for us would really like this. So let's pitch this to them, even if we don't. It's the same thing. You go on a trip to Israel and you're on a tour bus and you ask the guide, hey, is this where Jesus did blah, 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 blah? Well, yeah, it is. I mean, it behooves his business in order to do that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a business, and there's a lot of convoluted stuff going on. And like Jeremy and Jackson were referring to, there's a lot of history that we don't know about. And I just posted this Amazon link for the lemon tree in there. There's a lot of convoluted things. So I think the main thing for us is to, from my perspective, do I want the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Do I want the Israelite people, whatever that definition ends up being in the end? Do I want them back in the land following Yah, following Torah? Absolutely. Do I support that? Yes. But I'm not so gullible as to think that everybody that says they are that is that. And so I can't check my head at the door and just go by emotion, because there's stupid people in the world. There's shady people in the world, and they could try to usurp what Yah has for his people. So to me, I'm cautiously optimistic that there's some things going on in the Middle East that are going to be ultimately done for Yah's glory. And so I'm hoping that those that are there in Israel right now, that are a part of true Israel, will begin to establish themselves with a heart towards Yah, establish themselves in the different happenings, so that things aren't happening going against his plan, but they're trying to help it in any way that they can and support it and pray for it, and that I'm supporting and praying for those people. And but that doesn't necessarily mean a wholesale following or a wholesale blessing of everything that's going on in Israel that says it is for Yah's glory, because I'm a little bit older than that now. I've seen that game before.
Rich, that's their main, one of their main commodities, if you will, is tourism.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
They have ministers of everything. And then when those ministers get through with their post, then they become, if you will, entrepreneurs, and use the knowledge that they gained while they were minister to go out and, for instance, bring in Russians from Russia to the spas for healing, and they are termed a commodity. So they get paid a commission off of every Russian that they bring in, for example, to a spa. And there's very, very complex ways that they make, and they're very wealthy.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, to me, that's not anything that's singled out in Israel. That's businessmen and politics all around the world. That's just par for the course when it comes to that.
But they don't let you know that. That's not common knowledge.
Well, sure. Yeah, but no businessman does that. Donald Trump's not doing that in his business dealings, and neither is, the Starbucks CEO or whoever it is. That's just business.
I just think we have a view of Israel that isn't true. So that's my point. And you can't proselytize in Israel. You can be expelled from the country and never allowed to come back. You have to be invited to speak about Yahshua.
Dr. Brown actually had a video where he was harassed by an Orthodox Jew while he was there, but that's for another discussion. It's 1:00, Jackson. Do you have anything else or anything more we want to discuss? I mean, this is, we could talk about this for hours and be in the same place, but is there anything else?
Not for me, my friend.
All right. Well, we'll be praying for you and hoping that your pain goes away.
I'm about ready to go out of my mind right now.
Okay. And again, I'm going to try to post a new video on my YouTube, and I will get that up if I can. I don't know if it will be today, but it's going to be on, it'll be on something cool, I hope. But that's it. Shabbat Shalom. And is there anything tomorrow? Are you doing anything tomorrow, Jackson?
Yeah, we have a membership meeting tomorrow, all members and leaders. And if you're interested in coming, we're going to talk about what we've been accomplishing this last year. You're welcome to come. 2:00.
All right. Blessings, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.